This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Wendy Griffith. Louisiana joins the ranks of states passing heartbeat bills banning abortion as early as 6 weeks. That's once the baby's heartbeat is detected. CBN reporter Charlene Aaron is in the newsroom with more. Charlene.
That's right, Wendy. The bill is similar to recent measures passed in Georgia and Missouri and prohibit abortion once a heartbeat is detected.
When a person's heart stops beating, you know their life is ended. And when you can hear a baby's heartbeat, that is proof that life is present.
Louisiana's Democratic Governor John Bel Edwards intends to sign the bill into law despite opposition from National Democratic Party leaders. In a statement about the bill's passage, he said, in 2019, I ran for governor as a pro-life candidate after serving as a pro-life legislator for 8 years. As governor, I have been true to my word and my beliefs on this issue. He went on to say, as I prepare to sign this bill, I call on the overwhelming bipartisan majority of legislators who voted for it to join me in continuing to build a better Louisiana that cares for the least among us and provides more opportunity for everyone. Well, Wendy, back in the early 90s, more than 100 pro-life Democrats held office on Capitol Hill. Now there are only a handful. Kristen Day, executive director of the group Democrats for Life, weighed in on her party's opposition to pro-life Democrats, saying that the party has left them behind. According to the Washington Post, she said it's all about abortion. They just don't want anyone who opposes abortion in the party. They're kicking people out of the party instead of trying to bring people in. Meanwhile, pro-life lawmakers are hoping their laws will ultimately help challenge Roe v. Wade at the U.S. Supreme Court. Wendy, back to you.
While lawmakers on the federal level battle over abortion laws across the country, one student at the University of Chicago is keeping up the fight for life. Beginning last year, the student government decided to allow a portion of mandatory student life fees to be used to pay for students' abortions. College Republicans President Barban introduced a bill to stop using the emergency funds for abortions, but faced major backlash. Brett is also a campus reform correspondent and joins us now with more. Brett, thanks so much for being with us today.
Hi, Wendy. Thanks for having me on.
Brett, the bill ultimately did not pass. What was the reason, and were you surprised?
Yeah, unfortunately, I was a little disappointed that it wasn't able to pass because the way that I pitched it, the way that I saw it, was actually a compromise measure. The student life fees should not be being used for abortions. They're meant for social, recreational, educational, and cultural activities on campus. And then just beginning last year, as you said, student government decided to reimagine the use of the student life fee and be using it towards abortions. So when the incoming president of student government posted publicly on Facebook that abortions are a good thing and that her committee proudly supports and funds abortions, I was reached out to by a number of students who had sincerely held moral beliefs, religious beliefs that they felt were being violated by the use, their coercion financing other students' abortions.
Wow, abortions are a good thing. It's hard to believe someone in leadership would even post that. Well, explain a little about how student life fees do work and how students would have access to abortion using those fees.
Well, student life fees are intended for a myriad of purposes on campus. Like I laid it out, they just very broad definition: recreational, cultural, educational, and social activities on campus. But student government gets a portion of those fees, and every student pays $1,500 per year on these student life fees, and that's $1,600 next year, and in total, that's $23 million. So student government gets a portion of those fees, and then we have a committee within our student government that has not a whole lot of oversight and an expansive mandate, and they can fund many different things without a lot of checks and balances. And so my intention was simply to put up some guardrails and basically reach the conclusion that we've already reached at the federal level in the Hyde Amendment, which has been the law for 43 years, that we should not be financially coercing Americans to pay for other people's abortions.
Yeah, I can certainly see why some of your fellow students were upset about this. Well, do other universities have restrictions or requirements regarding abortion in their student health care?
For one instance, I know that at Harvard, they have the option of opting out of their health care coverage for abortions. And so that's an option that they have. It's simply not the one that we have, which is why I went about it at this mechanism, because changing the opt-out of our student life fees is way above my pay grade in student government. So I just tried to focus on what's actually tangible within my control, within my jurisdiction in student government. And we make these kinds of funding decisions all the time. And I was very surprised by the amount of blowback I got on the issue. Of course, it's controversial, hotly debated topic in American politics. But as soon as more open-minded, even pro-choice people learn about why we don't really need to be doing this because there are so many other private funds being used for these purposes, they realize that we should not be financially compelling students who are just coming for the University of Chicago to have a good education, not wanting to fund abortions.
Right, you graduate this year. Are there other students who plan to try and fight the funding again next year and hopefully, follow up on your efforts?
Yeah, you're right. I graduate in a few weeks. And so I do believe that there are other students on campus who will continue to fight this fight. And I will say that the Leadership Institute's campus reform does a lot of coverage about student governments and student life fees being paid for using those kinds of fees for misappropriated purposes. And for instance, they cover things day in and day out about this misuse of funds in which students already have really high tuition, and these are just totally not the acceptable uses for it.
All right, Brett Barban, thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate your battle, and God bless you.
Oh, thank you.
President Trump speaking out today after Special Counsel Robert Mueller spoke about his investigation. Mueller found that Russia meddled in the 2016 election and said that while charging Trump with a crime was not an option because of federal rules, he did not fully exonerate the president. Trump told reporters outside the White House today that, quote, nobody has been tougher on Russia than he has, and says he, quote, doesn't see how he could be impeached over it.
The whole thing is a scam. It's a giant presidential harassment. And honestly, I hope it goes down as one of my greatest achievements because I've exposed corruption. I've exposed corruption like nobody knew existed.
And we'll have more on this story and others on Faith Nation this evening. You can watch it right here on the CBN News Channel. More severe weather overnight across the U.S. brought both tornadoes and historic flooding. Powerful tornadoes have swept through parts of northeastern Texas, Illinois, Iowa, and Kansas over the last week. People in Texas waking up this morning to damaged homes and buildings. One resident recalling the storm saying it felt like it was actually suctioning them up.
My sister-in-law was sort of hovered over us, and I saw the door moving, and I had a hold of her arm. I was like, Lord, please don't suck her out, because it was for a minute it was just so strong, and it was like going in and out, and but thankfully the door didn't open, and we were all good in the hall.
Thank God for that. Well, the latest round of storms makes it more than 30 tornadoes reported across a streak of 13 consecutive days. Forecasters urging people across the nation to remain vigilant and not ignore tornado warnings and sirens. Well, for the first time in its history, Israel is going back to the polls, even though Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu won re-election on April the 9th. The problem is Netanyahu failed to form a coalition government. And as our Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, bridging the secular and religious divide won't be easy.
Just minutes before the midnight deadline to form a coalition, Israel's parliament, the Knesset, voted to dissolve itself and send Israelis back to the polls in September. The vote meant Israeli President Reuven Rivlin could not choose another party to try and form a new government. After 42 days of negotiations, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu couldn't bridge the divide between two of his potential coalition parties, Avigdor Lieberman on the one hand and the ultra-Orthodox parties on the other. The main contention between the two was a law requiring a percentage of ultra-Orthodox men to serve in Israel's military. The ultra-Orthodox parties objected to that law, and Lieberman would not serve in Netanyahu's coalition if the law wasn't passed. It's one more sign of a growing divide between the secular and religious within Israeli society. In the meantime, after just finishing one campaign, Israel's political parties will begin campaigning once again. While Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu remains the frontrunner, he faces challenges from retired General Benny Gantz's Blue and White Party and other opposition parties. Yet it also gives some politicians, like Education Minister Naftali Bennett, one more shot at re-election. Netanyahu vowed he'll win the next election, but in addition to his political challenges, he will face 3 separate criminal charges 1 month after the next election. The new elections also mean the unveiling of President Trump's peace plan will likely be put on hold for several more months. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Chris. Coming up, how faith-based organizations have played a role in a record number of adoptions in Alabama. Stay tuned.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
It has the power to influence weight loss, boost your immune system, and improve brain function.
We've seen an explosion of data on the role of the gut microbiome in health.
The free Build a Better Gut booklet reveals the latest information about the gut microbiome. You'll discover how your gut affects the rest of your health.
The gut microbiome has been linked to depression and cancer and heart disease.
Learn how to build a stronger, healthier gut.
The microbiome, if it's in good composition, are really protecting us all the time from more invasive things.
Get the Build a Better Gut booklet, free from the Christian Broadcasting Network. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut.
You need to make sure that your microbes are working with you, not against you.
And if you order online, you'll get immediate access to the Build a Better Gut series, a digital copy of the booklet, and related bonus material. Build a Better Gut today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut for your free copy.
Here, we're committed to a heritage of rigorous scholarship dating back over 1,000 years.
And to a faith tradition dating back 1,000 more.
This is how we create a culture of inquiry where no topic is off limits.
And a culture of hope.
Anything's possible!
It's Christian leadership.
And it's changing the world for the better.
It's higher learning.
It's greater knowing.
It's what makes us whole.
It's what makes us regent.
Well, this is a good news story. The state of Alabama says a record number of people adopted foster children in the state in 2018. More than 700 foster children were adopted last year, and that's 200 more than in 2017. CBN's Heather Sells spoke with Rod Marshall, the head of Alabama Baptist Children's Homes and Family Ministries.
The Alabama Baptist Children's Homes has worked for years with the government and other faith-based providers in the state on behalf of foster children. What is your take on the record number of adoptions in this last year?
It doesn't surprise me too much. If you look at the foster care landscape in Alabama, there are many faith-based groups that do partner with the state. The Baptist Children's Home, the Methodist Children's Home, the Presbyterian Children's Home, Catholic Family Services, Agape, which is affiliated with Church of Christ, Lifeline, which is a non-denominational evangelical ministry. So probably 60 to 70% of foster families in Alabama are going through some type of faith-based organization or are Christians themselves. I think a lot of the families feel a sense of calling to foster care, not as a job, but as a ministry. So when those children become available for adoption, it doesn't surprise me at all that those families are adopting them into their homes.
I know that you are also seeing a lot of reunifications, that is, foster children reuniting with their biological families. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think that's the part of the story that didn't get as much attention, is that 70% of children in foster care will be reunited with a relative placement. And again, I think that's a great place where ministries involved in foster care can come alongside those families, can be a support for those families, can be an encouragement for those families, can remain in contact with the children who've been their foster children, and ensure or increase the chances of long-term success and stable placement with relative placements.
I know that as a faith-based provider, you work hard to recruit, train, support foster parents. Tell us about that investment and how you think it makes a difference.
So we are a full-service foster care ministry. We do the recruiting primarily in churches. We do the training, which is a 10-week, 30-hour training. We do all the background checks, we do the home studies, and then once a child is placed with those families, we do the ongoing casework so that we're able to be a buffer between our foster families and the foster care system, which can be an overwhelming system to individuals who are new to that system.
And do you think that makes a difference with burnout and parents feeling like this is just overwhelming to me?
We have several foster families who have served with us for decades, and that is pretty unusual in the foster care arena. I think a large part of that is the additional support they get and the relationships they build with their caseworkers.
I want to ask you, too, with so many adoptions in this last year, where do you see this trend going? Do you think it might continue?
That wouldn't surprise me at all. In Alabama, we are blessed to not have a huge number of kids in foster care compared to some of our neighboring states. And so for about 10% of those kids where family reunification is not a possibility, adoption is often a really strong possibility. And there are several families eager to adopt those kids and provide them with stability and forever homes.
All right. Well, Rod Marshall with Alabama Baptist Children's Homes and Family Ministries, thanks for your time and insights.
Thanks so much. Delight to be with you.
Coming up, is Big Brother becoming a reality in China? We'll hear from an expert about a new system in that country that rewards or punishes citizens as the Chinese government sees fit.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com. Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs, from health to entertainment, you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place, from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Check your local listings or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
It has the power to influence weight loss, boost your immune system, and improve brain function.
We've seen an explosion of data on the role of the gut microbiome in health.
The free Build a Better Gut booklet reveals the latest information about the gut microbiome. You'll discover how your gut affects the rest of your health.
The gut microbiome has been linked to depression and cancer and heart disease.
Learn how to build a stronger, healthier gut.
The microbiome, if it's in good composition, are really protecting us all the time from more invasive things.
Get the Build a Better Gut booklet, free from the Christian Broadcasting Network. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut.
You need to make sure that your microbes are working with you, not against you.
And if you order online, you'll get immediate access to the Build a Better Gut series, a digital copy of the booklet, and related bonus material. Build a Better Gut today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut for your free copy.
Welcome back. Well, it's like an Orwellian nightmare. The Chinese Communist Party is using advanced technology to secure government control over the lives of nearly everyone in the society. Beijing is moving quickly to set up a system called social credit. It's based on people's perceived behaviors and attitudes. Stephen Mosher is author of the book Bully of Asia, Why China's Dream is the New Threat to World Order. Appearing on tonight's episode of The Global Lane, Mosher says the Chinese government is rewarding citizens who show it favor and punishing those who do not.
Big Brother in China is watching all the time. It's watching through video surveillance cameras. It's watching where you go, what you do, what you buy, who you talk to on WeChat and Twitter and other communication devices in China. It's really 24/7 surveillance. And not only that, Gary, they actually give you what's called a social credit score based on how trustworthy they think you are. If you're saying nice things about China's president for life, Xi Jinping, your social credit score goes up. If you're saying critical things about the government, your social credit score goes down, and that can affect you in literally dozens of ways.
What impact does that have on the society there with this social credit system?
Well, anyone who gets a low social credit score, if they go to buy an airplane ticket, they'll be turned away at the ticket line. They have to travel by slow train, not bullet train. So one person recently thought he would fly from Beijing down to Canton, 3-hour flight, had to take the slow train, 30 hours stop and go. That's punishment, Gary. That's real punishment. If your social credit score is too low, of course, your ringtone changes, and when people call you, they hear a police siren and a warning, be careful in your dealings with this person. If your social credit score is too low, your children can't get into good schools. You can't get a low interest rate loan, or maybe no loan at all, to buy a home or a car. And you can't get a job because people will see you're politically unreliable. So it affects your life in a myriad of ways. And I'll tell you what, there are reports that if people's credit score drops too low, the government actually preemptively sends them to re-education camps, not because they've committed a crime, but because the government thinks that they may be about to commit a crime and arrest them and re-educates them in advance.
Make sure they're good communists, I guess. So Christians have said this means the government is monitoring them closely as they come and go from prayer meetings. Now, how is the government using artificial intelligence and facial recognition software in its crackdown on churches, Stephen?
Well, China has more surveillance cameras than any other country in the world. They're collecting all the electronic information, all the transmissions from everybody's cell phones. They're collecting retinal scans, DNA information, fingerprints. They put that all into a massive database, which they then use artificial intelligence to sort out who's doing suspicious things. Now, the other thing that happens is it's a mutual surveillance system. You can actually raise your social credit score by reporting on what the government considers the misdeeds of others. So if you are a person who sees a local home church holding a meeting in someone's home and you report that to the authorities, your social credit score goes up. So this is really everybody watching everybody else all the time. Makes it very difficult for even small home churches to survive in this draconian environment.
Wow, that's a tough society for people. Complete control over their lives, spying on one another. So to what extent are American companies helping China accomplish this?
Well, we know that the face recognition technology sold to China for the video surveillance camera system came from an American company. Google, thankfully, may be getting out of the business of helping to refine China's artificial intelligence, which is used to massage this huge mass of data and pick out troublesome people like Christians and others for particular attention and lowering their social credit score. By the way, just being a Christian in atheistic China under the misrule of the atheistic Communist Party is a big hit to your social credit score.
Might a similar social credit system be tried here in the United States? Mosher responds to that question on the CBN News program, The Global Lane. You can watch it tonight on the CBN News channel right here at 9:30 Eastern Time. Coming up, why evangelist Franklin Graham is encouraging people across the country to pray for the president this weekend. Stay tuned.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Evangelist Franklin Graham is asking Christians across the country to pray for President Trump this Sunday. He's urging prayer for protection, strength, and encouragement. CBN News White House correspondent Ben Kennedy has details on the June 2nd event.
Reverend Franklin Graham calls this a critical time for America and that we need to pray for God to intervene.
We once again place our hopes in the hands of our Creator.
And it's God that Reverend Franklin Graham wants Christians worldwide to pray to for President Trump.
Next Sunday, June the 2nd, I and many other Christian leaders across the country are asking you to take a moment during that day to pray for President Donald Trump.
Graham adds that no president has been attacked more than Trump and that the only hope for him and this nation is God.
He's our president, and if he succeeds, we all benefit. But if his enemies are allowed to destroy him and pull down the presidency, it will hurt our entire nation.
I was really obliged and thankful for Franklin's stepping out on this issue, so we joined.
Kevin Jessup is the chairman of the grassroots movement called Save the Persecuted Christians. He's one of the faith leaders who signed the proclamation to pray.
I believe that the word of God will be lifted up in this nation. And that's what we need. We need the national dialogue to include the Word of God.
Reverend Franklin Graham is asking Christians to get the word out of this day of prayer for the president. So far, more than 250 faith leaders plan to join him. Ben Kennedy, CBN News, the White House.
Thanks, Ben. Great idea to pray for our president this Sunday. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of News Watch. We hope you'll join us next time. Until then, from all of us here, God bless you.